You are 22 years old, and the war has already rejected you once. In the summer of 1941, when your whole shift from the factory walks to the recruitment office together, the doctor listens to your chest for a long time, then writes 3 words on a form and hands you the white ticket. A heart murmur, not fit for service. Your friends board trains with rifles, and you go back to your lathe at the Kirov works, and you feel the looks. Or you imagine them, which is worse. You are young, strong enough to work 12-hour shifts, and officially too broken to defend your own city. You do not know yet that the city has other plans for all of you. You do not know that staying in Leningrad will demand more than any front line. You live with your mother in one room of a communal apartment on Vasilyevsky Island. A long corridor, 5 families, 1 kitchen, the smell of kerosene and laundry. Across the corridor lives Nikolai Petrovich, 60 years old, a botanist at the Plant Institute on St. Isaac's Square, a bachelor with 3,000 books and a paper cone of sunflower seeds always in his coat pocket. Your girlfriend Vera is finishing her nursing courses. Your plans are simple. Marry Vera in the autumn, get on the waiting list for a room of your own, save for a radio set. Nothing heroic, nothing complicated. On the 8th of September, the ring closes. You learn the word blockade, the way everyone learns it, not from the newspaper, but from the sky. That evening, German bombers reach the Badaev warehouses, where the city's food reserves are stored, and the horizon turns the color of an open furnace door. The fire burns for days. The smoke smells of caramel, thousands of tons of sugar melting into the earth. Weeks later, people will be digging up that sweet black soil and boiling it. You stand on the embankment watching the glow, and an old worker next to you says, very quietly, to no one, "That was the pantry. Now we find out who we are." You do not understand him yet. By December, you will. The rations fall like a man going down a staircase. In September, 600 grams of bread for a worker. In October, 400. In November, 250 for you and 125 for your mother because she is a dependent. 125 grams. Hold your palm open. The whole daily portion fits on it, dense and damp, half sawdust and cellulose. You will remember the exact weight of it in your hand for the rest of your life. 60 years from now, in another century, you will still be able to close your eyes and feel it. And then there is the sound. When the radio has nothing to broadcast, it does not go silent. Silence would mean the city is dead. Instead, day and night, the loudspeakers carry the tick of a metronome. Slow beat, all clear. Fast beat, air raid, get to shelter. You fall asleep to it, you wake to it, you check it without thinking the way you check your own breathing. The whole city lives inside that sound. People call it the heartbeat of Leningrad, and it is not a metaphor. As long as the metronome ticks, the city is alive. The factory does not stop. That is the part no one outside will ever quite believe. The shells that the front fires are machined by men and women who can barely stand. The Kirov works is 4 kilometers from the front line. You make armor plate within earshot of the guns it is made for. When the shelling starts, the shop does not empty. There is a quota. You learn to read the whistle of incoming shells the way sailors read weather. At night, you climb to the factory roof for fire watch duty. The incendiaries fall like white hissing stars, and you grab them with long tongs and drown them in barrels of sand. 22 years old, unfit for service, on a roof under bombardment, with tongs in your hands. The white ticket stops burning in your pocket somewhere around November. The city has drafted you after all. It drafted everyone who stayed. Winter comes early and hard, as if it had signed a contract. -30. The pipes freeze, then burst. The trams stop mid-street and stand where they stopped, filling with snow, like a photograph of the moment the city's blood ceased to move. Water now means a hole in the Neva ice and a bucket on a sled, hauled home up the frozen embankment steps. Light means a wick floating in machine oil. Warmth means a little iron stove in the middle of the room, fed with fences, then furniture, then books. Nikolai Petrovich burns his books himself, in strict order, like a man performing triage. Journals first, then the duplicates, then the Germans. Goethe can warm us. He owes us that much. He keeps lecturing you and your mother through the dark evenings while the stove eats his library. About wheat, about drought-resistant strains, about the expeditions of his youth in Central Asia. You realize only later what he is doing. Hunger eats the body first, and then it comes for the mind. And the mind must be fed something, or it lies down. His lectures are rations. He is feeding you his life's work, a spoonful at a time. It is from him that you learn what is happening on St. Isaac's Square, in the Institute, where he still walks every second day on legs like matchsticks. The Plant Institute holds one of the greatest seed collections on earth. Tons of grain, rice, potatoes, seeds gathered from 5 continents over decades. Tons of food in a starving city, guarded by starving scientists. They heat the vaults to keep the potato samples from freezing. They stand duty over sacks of wheat. And they are dying, at their desks, in the corridors, one after another, with the collection untouched. You ask him the question everyone asks, the obvious, human, terrible question: why? He looks at you over his glasses, genuinely puzzled that it needs asking. Because it is not food, he says. It is every harvest that comes after the war. A man can die in one winter. If the collection dies, the hunger wins forever. You are 22 and you think, they are mad. You are 80 and you will think, they were the sanest people in the city. January 1942 is the bottom of the world. The bread is 125 grams, and the cold is a physical presence in the room, a third tenant. Your mother talks less and sleeps more. She moves the way everyone moves now, the blockade walk, slow, flat-footed, economical, the body spending its last currency 1 kopeck at a time. You bring your bread home and you eat together, and she divides the portions, and you are so tired and so slowed by hunger that you do not see what you are looking at. Her half is thinner than yours. She has been shaving her ration into yours for weeks, a few grams a day, invisibly, with a housewife's sleight of hand perfected over a lifetime of stretching too little into enough. You understand it on the morning she does not wake up. You sit beside her for a long time in the frozen room. The metronome ticks slowly from the loudspeaker. All clear, the city is alive, tick, tick. And you sit there holding a piece of bread you cannot make yourself eat, doing the arithmetic you will never finish. How many grams, how many days, how much of you is made of her? There are no funerals that winter. There is a route. You wrap her in a sheet and you pull her on a sled, the same sled that hauled the water buckets, down the middle of the avenue, because the sidewalks are drifted over. You are not alone on the street. Other sleds, other sheets, other silent walkers, a procession without music or words, moving through a city of frozen trams and windows blind with plywood. Nobody weeps on that road. Weeping costs calories. Grief, you learn, can be postponed. The body files it away, unpaid, and the debt comes due years later, all at once, on some ordinary Tuesday when you are safe and fed and someone hands you a slice of bread that smells a certain way. What saves you that January are 2 things, and you count them precisely because precision is what you have instead of strength. The first is Vera. She is a nurse now in a hospital across the river, and once a week, one of you walks the 2 hours to the other, through the dark, through the cold, past the shell warning signs on the sunny side of the street, for 1 hour of sitting together beside a stove, holding hands through mittens. You do not talk about the future. You ration the future like everything else. Half a dream per visit, no more. Anything bigger would cost too much if it broke. The second is the small cloth bag Nikolai Petrovich puts into your hands in February, on the evening you find him at his table, wrapped in 3 coats, too weak to walk to the institute anymore. In the bag, perhaps 200 grains of wheat. His own work, 30 years of selection, a strain bred for frost and short summers. His voice is very calm, the particular calm you have learned to fear. Not for eating, he says. You understand me. When it is over, plant them. They only mean something in the ground. He dies 3 nights later, in his chair, facing the shelf where the last of his books stand, the ones he refused to burn no matter what. You sew the bag into the lining of your coat, next to your heart, like a soldier's photograph. And there come nights in March, the hungriest nights, when the body argues its case in a voice louder than any radio. When you sit with your hand pressed against that lump in the lining. 200 grains, a day of life, maybe 2. You never open the bag. Understand, this is not because you are strong. It is because you have watched men starve to death guarding tons of grain, and after that, eating 200 seeds would mean that everything this winter, your mother's shaved rations, the old man's burned library, the metronome, all of it, meant nothing. The bag stays sewn shut. Some nights, that is the only victory available. It is enough. Spring comes, and the city does something that you will insist on telling people about for the rest of your life, because it never makes the films. It cleans itself. Hundreds of thousands of survivors, swaying, gray, half alive, come out with crowbars and shovels and scrape away a winter's worth of ice, ruin, and everything terrible frozen inside it. Epidemics wait in that ice. Everyone knows it. A plague on top of the famine would finish the city. So the city refuses. You swing a crowbar for 2-hour shifts with rests between, next to professors and dancers and grandmothers, and by mid-April, the streets are stone again. And on the 15th of April, you are standing on the avenue when you hear a sound that stops every person on the street mid-step. A tram bell. The first tram in 4 months comes down the line, ringing, ordinary, impossible. And grown men take off their caps, and women weep openly on the pavement, spending at last a little of the postponed grief, because a tram means current in the wires, means repair crews, means the city is not dying anymore. It is getting up. Tick, tick, says the metronome, slow and steady. Ring, ring, answers the tram. You stand there with your cap in your hand, crying over public transport, and you have never in your life been part of anything so dignified. That summer, the city plants. Every courtyard, every park, every strip of earth, cabbage on the square in front of St. Isaac's, potatoes in the summer garden. You and Vera dig a bed in the hospital courtyard. You do not plant the wheat, not yet. The old man said, when it is over, and it is not over. But you grow cabbage like everyone. And in September, you and Vera walk to the registry office in your work clothes and sign the book and are married. The wedding feast is bread, real tea saved for 2 months, and 6 boiled potatoes from your own bed. You have attended richer tables. You will never again attend a better one. The siege does not end quickly. It ends the way ice breaks on the Neva, a crack, then another, then the roar. In January 1943, the army tears open a corridor along the lakeshore, and the bread ration rises, and the shelling goes on for another whole year, and you machine armor plate and ride the tram and live. And then, On the 27th of January, 1944, nearly 900 days after the ring closed, the radio announces that the blockade of Leningrad is fully lifted. In that evening, the sky over the Neva explodes. Not with bombs, with salute. 24 salvos, gold and crimson over the ice, the first fireworks in 3.5 years. The embankment is full of people, and no one has come to celebrate. They have come to stand. You stand pressed in the crowd with Vera's hand in yours, faces lit up and streaming, and you understand that you are attending your city's survival the way one attends a birth. Present, silent, permanently changed. In May, when the earth warms, you take a spade to the courtyard on Vasilyevsky Island, and you open the lining of your coat, and you plant 200 grains of wheat in a bed dug where the woodshed used to stand. The shed went into the stove in December of 41. You feel slightly foolish, a lathe operator sowing wheat in a city courtyard. You do it in careful rows anyway. In August, there is a small square of gold under the windows, heavy-headed, absurd, beautiful, and the whole staircase comes down to look at it. You harvest it by hand, thresh it in a pillowcase, and keep every grain for seed. The next spring, you plant all of it again and take the surplus to the Institute on St. Isaac's Square and tell a tired woman in a white coat where it came from and whose work it was. She writes down his name and asks you to repeat it twice to be sure of the spelling. That, right there, a name spelled correctly in a ledger, is the only monument the old man would have accepted. Here is what the blockade leaves in you, since you are asking. For the rest of your life, you cannot leave bread on a plate. Not a crust, not a crumb. You sweep crumbs into your palm and eat them in restaurants, at weddings, and Vera, who does exactly the same, never once has to explain it to you, which is one of the 10,000 quiet conveniences of marrying inside the same catastrophe. You keep, until the day you die, a shelf in the pantry that is never allowed to be empty. And you cannot hear a metronome in a music school window, in a film, without your body going still and your ear waiting to be sure the beat is slow. You are 78, and your granddaughter, she is 20. She studies agronomy, and no, that is not a coincidence. Nothing in a family is a coincidence. Takes you out to the experimental fields outside the city where her institute grows its trial plots. She wants to show you something. It is July. The wheat stands to the horizon, gold and heavy-headed, hissing softly in the wind. And she tells you the strain's pedigree, the crosses and the registry numbers. And in the middle of the pedigree, like a stone in a ring, is the old man's name. His wheat, still in the ground, still meaning something. You stand at the edge of the field for a long time. The wind moves through the grain in slow waves, regular as a beat. Tick, tick, slow, all clear. The city is alive. The harvest came after the war, exactly as promised. It is still coming. 70 years of harvests now, and you think, that is what he meant. A man can die in one winter, but this does not die. This was never food. It was the future, sewn into a coat lining, waiting for spring, and it kept you alive precisely because you refused to eat it.